Introduction. Robert had everything mapped out with the precision of his most complex architectural designs. At 34, he was a partner at a prestigious firm, owned a sleek downtown loft, and had just spent 6 months planning the perfect proposal to his girlfriend of 2 years. The ring was purchased, the reservation made at their favorite restaurant, and the speech rehearsed. But 3 days before the planned proposal, Robert found himself breaking up with her instead. "I just don't think we're compatible long-term," he told her, watching her face crumble as he delivered what felt like a well-reasoned analysis of their relationship's structural flaws. It was the same conversation he'd had with 3 other women over the past decade, always just before taking the next step, always with the same calm, logical tone that made his explanations sound reasonable even as they devastated the women he claimed to love. Sitting alone in his perfectly organized apartment that night, Robert finally recognized the pattern. It wasn't that he hadn't found the right person. It wasn't that these relationships had fundamental incompatibilities. The common denominator was him. Like many adults with dismissive avoidant attachment, Robert had spent years believing his relationship challenges stemmed from being picky or independent. He prided himself on his self-sufficiency and rational approach to life. But underneath this carefully constructed autonomy lay a deeper truth. He had never learned how to be close to someone without losing himself. This book exists because traditional relationship advice often misses the mark for individuals with dismissive avoidant attachment patterns. Most guidance assumes that people naturally want to merge, share everything, and prioritize togetherness. Assumptions that can feel suffocating rather than appealing to those who've learned to equate independence with safety. The purpose here is to provide a research-backed practical roadmap specifically designed for individuals with avoidant attachment to develop secure relationship skills while honoring their fundamental need for autonomy. Rather than asking you to abandon your independence or completely rewire your personality, this approach recognizes that your self-reliance and analytical strengths are gifts that can enhance your capacity for meaningful connection. You'll discover that true intimacy doesn't require losing yourself. It requires knowing yourself well enough to share authentically while maintaining clear boundaries. This book is written for adults who recognize dismissive patterns in their relationships and are ready to expand their capacity for connection without sacrificing their core need for independence. You might value independence highly and have been told you're too independent or emotionally unavailable. You don't want to become dependent or lose your identity, but you're beginning to recognize that your fierce self-reliance might be limiting your ability to experience the depth of connection you actually desire. Unlike most relationship books that take a one-size-fits-all approach, this book is specifically designed for the unique strengths and challenges of dismissive avoidant attachment. This approach doesn't ask you to abandon your independence. Instead, it focuses on integrating your natural strengths with expanded capacities for emotional awareness and interpersonal connection. The journey ahead will take you through understanding your attachment blueprint, exploring the neuroscience behind your responses, and building practical skills for communication and intimacy. You'll learn strategies for maintaining autonomy while deepening connections in romantic relationships, family dynamics, friendships, and professional settings. Your dismissive patterns, developed as intelligent adaptations to your early environment. They're not character flaws. As you learn new ways of relating, honor the protective function these patterns have served while remaining open to expanding your responses. The journey ahead will show you that it's possible to maintain your independence while building the meaningful connections you desire. You don't need to choose between autonomy and intimacy. 1. The architecture of distance, mapping your avoidant blueprint. When avoidance hijacks your day. Logan stared at his phone for the 3rd time that morning. His girlfriend had sent a heartfelt message about missing him, complete with heart emojis. His thumb hovered over the keyboard. "Miss you too" felt too intense. Same seemed cold. 20 minutes later, he sent back a thumbs-up emoji and immediately felt both relieved and guilty. Avoidant patterns aren't just about big relationship moments. They're woven into the fabric of daily interactions in ways so subtle you might not even notice them. These patterns serve as protective mechanisms, keeping emotional intensity at manageable levels while maintaining your sense of autonomy and control. Daily avoidance reveals itself through text message archaeology. Analyzing response times, word choices, and emoji usage reveals avoidance patterns. You might consistently take longer to respond to emotionally charged messages, use humor to deflect serious conversations, or provide practical solutions when someone shares feelings. Conversation exit strategies. You've developed sophisticated ways to redirect or end conversations that feel too intimate. This might include changing the subject when someone gets vulnerable, checking your phone during emotional moments, or suddenly remembering urgent tasks. Decision-making independence. You make major life choices without consulting others, even those closest to you. While this demonstrates impressive self-reliance, it can leave partners and friends feeling excluded from important aspects of your life. Mary realized her avoidant patterns when she noticed she'd planned an entire career change, including accepting a new job in another city, without mentioning it to her partner of 2 years. When she finally shared the news, her partner's hurt reaction confused her. "I thought she'd be proud of my independence," she reflected later. This moment illuminated how her strength in autonomous decision-making sometimes came at the cost of emotional intimacy and partnership. Understanding these daily patterns is the first step toward conscious choice rather than automatic response, setting the stage for exploring the neurological foundations of these behaviors in our next chapter. The unexpected power of emotional distance. Marcus had always been the friend others called in a crisis. When his best friend's father died unexpectedly, he was the one who handled the funeral arrangements, coordinated family communications, and managed practical details while others were overwhelmed by grief. His ability to remain calm and solution-focused in emotional chaos wasn't coldness, it was a superpower. Your avoidant attachment style isn't a character flaw to be fixed. It's a sophisticated adaptation that comes with genuine strengths. Research shows that securely functioning relationships actually benefit from having partners with different attachment strengths, and avoidant individuals bring unique gifts to relationships and communities. Core avoidant strengths include emotional regulation mastery. You've developed exceptional skills in managing intense emotions, both your own and others. This makes you a stabilizing presence during crises and helps you make clear-headed decisions when others might be overwhelmed by feeling. Independence and self-sufficiency. Your ability to meet your own needs and solve problems autonomously is a genuine strength. You don't drain others with constant need for reassurance or validation, and you bring a sense of capability and resourcefulness to relationships. Objective perspective. Your natural emotional distance often allows you to see situations more clearly and offer unbiased advice. Friends and colleagues likely value your ability to cut through emotional noise and identify practical solutions. Sarah discovered her avoidant strengths during a family crisis when her sister was going through a difficult divorce. While other family members were caught up in taking sides and emotional drama, she was able to help her sister focus on practical concerns like legal representation and financial planning. "I realized that what I sometimes see as being too detached is actually my ability to stay grounded when everyone else is spinning," she noted. Her sister later thanked her for being the one person who could offer clear guidance without adding to the emotional chaos. Understanding these strengths provides a foundation for exploring how your brain creates these patterns in the next chapter. Mapping your emotional trigger landscape. Derek was having coffee with a colleague when she casually mentioned that he seemed hard to get to know. The comment hit him like a physical blow, though he maintained his composed exterior. Later, driving home, he felt a familiar tightness in his chest, the same feeling he'd had as a child when his mother would sigh and say, "You're so independent, you don't need anyone." Understanding your avoidant patterns requires detective work into your personal history and present-day triggers. This isn't about blame or lengthy analysis, but about recognizing the specific moments and dynamics that activate your protective systems so you can respond with more awareness and choice. Key areas for exploration. Childhood blueprint identification. Your avoidant patterns likely developed as adaptive responses to early experiences. Perhaps emotional expression was discouraged, independence was heavily rewarded, or caregivers were overwhelmed and you learned not to add to their burden. Present-day trigger mapping. Certain phrases, tones of voice, or relationship dynamics can instantly activate your avoidant response. These might include direct questions about feelings, expressions of need from others, or situations that feel like emotional demands. Physical and emotional early warning signs. Your body and emotions give you signals before you fully withdraw. Learning to recognize the tightness in your chest, the urge to check your phone, or the sudden mental fog can help you catch avoidant responses before they fully engage. Rachel began tracking her triggers after noticing she consistently felt suffocated when her partner used phrases like, "We need to talk," or "I need you to." Through gentle self-observation, she realized these phrases reminded her of her childhood role as the family's emotional caretaker for her anxious mother. Once I understood the connection, I could separate my partner's reasonable requests from my old fear of being consumed by someone else's needs, she explained. This awareness allowed her to stay present in conversations instead of automatically shutting down. Understanding these trigger patterns prepares us to explore the neurological foundations behind them. Avoidance's hidden price tag. Marcus sat in his beautifully organized apartment, successful in his career, financially stable, and completely in control of his environment. He had achieved everything he thought he wanted. So why did he feel so empty? The promotion celebration dinner he'd eaten alone, the vacation photos with no one to share them with, the achievements that felt hollow without someone who truly knew him to celebrate with, success felt different than he'd imagined. Your avoidant patterns have served important functions in your life, providing protection, autonomy, and often external success. However, like any survival strategy, they come with trade-offs. Understanding both sides of this equation helps you make conscious choices about when to maintain these patterns and when they might be limiting your growth. The avoidance balance sheet. The protection payoff. Avoidance has shielded you from rejection, disappointment, and the vulnerability that comes with deep emotional connection. You've likely experienced less dramatic relationship conflict and maintained a sense of personal control that many people struggle to achieve. The autonomy advantage. Your self-reliance has probably contributed to professional success, financial independence, and the ability to pursue your goals without being derailed by others' needs or opinions. You've built a life that reflects your values and choices. The intimacy cost. The same patterns that protect you from pain also limit your access to deep connection, emotional support, and the profound satisfaction that comes from being truly known and accepted. You may have many acquaintances, but few people who really understand your inner world. Lisa realized the full cost of her avoidant patterns during her father's illness. While she efficiently managed his medical care and supported her family practically, she found herself unable to share her own grief and fear with anyone. "I had built such a perfect system for handling everything alone that I didn't know how to let anyone in when I desperately needed support," she reflected. The experience showed her that her independence, while valuable, had become a prison that kept out not just potential pain, but also potential comfort and connection. 2. The neuroscience of the guarded heart. When love feels like danger. Picture this: you're at a coffee shop when your phone buzzes with a text from your partner saying, "We need to talk." Instantly your heart rate spikes, your shoulders tense, and your mind races through worst-case scenarios. While others might feel curiosity or mild concern, your brain has already activated its threat detection system, scanning for exits, both literal and emotional. The avoidant nervous system operates like a hypersensitive security system, constantly scanning for signs of emotional danger. When early experiences taught you that relationships equal unpredictability or pain, your brain develops specialized neural pathways designed to detect and deflect potential threats to your emotional safety. This hypervigilance isn't a character flaw. It's a sophisticated survival mechanism that your nervous system created to protect you. Your brain processes love through a lens of potential danger. Threat detection overdrive. Your amygdala, the brain's alarm center, becomes hyperactive when processing relationship cues, often interpreting neutral interactions as potential threats to your autonomy or safety. The preemptive strike response. Rather than waiting to assess actual danger, your brain triggers defensive behaviors, emotional withdrawal, criticism, or sudden busyness, to maintain distance before any real threat materializes. Memory bias toward danger. Your hippocampus, responsible for memory formation, preferentially stores and recalls relationship experiences that confirm your expectations of disappointment or engulfment, while positive interactions get filtered out or minimized. Cameron had been dating Chloe for 6 months when she suggested they spend a weekend at her family's cabin. While she saw it as a romantic getaway, his brain immediately cataloged potential threats: being trapped in an isolated location, meeting expectations he might not understand, having his alone time completely eliminated. His nervous system flooded with stress hormones, and he found himself picking a fight about her controlling nature. Not because she was controlling, but because his hypervigilant brain had detected what it perceived as a threat to his freedom and safety. This neurological response explains why love can feel so overwhelming. When love feels like danger. Imagine trying to enjoy a beautiful sunset while a smoke detector blares in the background. That's what intimacy feels like when your nervous system treats closeness as an emergency. Your partner reaches for your hand, shares a vulnerable moment, or simply wants to spend quiet time together, and suddenly your body responds as if you're facing a life-threatening situation. Your intimacy alarm system developed during your earliest relationships, when closeness may have come with conditions, inconsistency, or emotional overwhelm. Now, even healthy intimacy triggers the same neurobiological response as genuine danger. Your sympathetic nervous system floods your body with stress hormones, your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking brain, goes offline, and you're left operating from pure survival instinct. This creates 3 distinct patterns that sabotage connection. Oxytocin resistance. While most people experience oxytocin, the bonding hormone, as pleasurable, your nervous system may have learned to associate it with vulnerability and danger, creating an uncomfortable rather than warm feeling during intimate moments. Proximity panic. As emotional or physical distance decreases, your nervous system interprets this as a loss of control, triggering fight or flight responses that manifest as irritability, sudden need for space, or finding fault with your partner. The vulnerability paradox. The very behaviors that create deeper connection, sharing fears, expressing needs, showing emotion, activate your threat detection system, because vulnerability once meant danger in your formative relationships. Patricia loved her partner deeply, but every time he said, "I love you," her body would tense and her mind would race with thoughts like, "What does he want from me?" or "This is moving too fast." She'd find herself becoming critical or distant immediately after their closest moments together. It wasn't until she understood that her nervous system was treating his love as a threat to her independence that she could begin to separate her automatic responses from her actual feelings about the relationship. Understanding this neurobiological reality is the first step toward rewiring these patterns. When we explore childhood blueprints next, you'll see exactly how these protective mechanisms formed. Your brain's makeover without the identity crisis. The revolutionary discovery of neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new neural pathways throughout your lifetime, offers hope without requiring you to become someone you're not. Dr. Daniel Siegel's research shows that we can literally rewire our brain's response patterns while maintaining our core identity and values. This isn't about becoming more extroverted or dependent. It's about giving your nervous system new options for responding to intimacy. Your avoidant patterns carved deep neural highways in your brain through repetition and emotional intensity. But just as a path through the woods becomes overgrown when unused, these old patterns can fade while new, healthier pathways strengthen. The key is working with your brain's natural learning processes rather than against your fundamental nature. 3 core approaches can rewire your neural responses. Gradual exposure therapy. By slowly expanding your comfort zone with intimacy in small, manageable doses, you can teach your nervous system that closeness doesn't equal danger without overwhelming your system. Mindful pattern interruption. Learning to catch your automatic responses in the moment creates a pause where choice becomes possible, allowing your prefrontal cortex to come back online and choose a different response. Somatic rewiring. Since avoidant patterns are stored in your body as much as your mind, physical practices like breathwork, gentle movement, and body awareness can create new neural pathways from the ground up. Derek started small by simply noticing when his jaw clenched during emotional conversations with his partner. Instead of trying to force himself to be more open, he focused on relaxing his jaw and taking 3 deep breaths. Over time, this simple practice created enough space for him to choose his responses rather than react automatically. After 6 months, he found he could stay present during difficult conversations without losing his sense of self or feeling overwhelmed by his partner's emotions. This neuroplasticity gives you permission to evolve your relationship patterns while honoring your authentic self. You remain independent and thoughtful, you just gain more choices in how you connect. Your brain's independence trap. In your neural wiring, autonomy and connection exist in a zero-sum relationship. More of one means less of the other. This isn't a conscious belief you chose, it's how your nervous system learned to categorize the world during your formative years. When early caregivers may have been inconsistent, intrusive, or emotionally overwhelming, your developing brain created a simple survival rule: connection equals loss of self. This neurological either-or thinking shows up in your relationships as an invisible seesaw. When your partner moves closer, your brain automatically assumes your independence is under threat. When you assert your autonomy, your nervous system interprets this as requiring distance from your partner. Breaking free from this paradox requires teaching your brain that these 2 fundamental human needs can coexist. 3 core patterns maintain this independence trap. False binary thinking. Your amygdala processes relationship dynamics in black and white terms, unable to hold the complexity that you can be both connected and autonomous simultaneously. The engulfment fear response. When your partner expresses needs, emotions, or desires for closeness, your nervous system activates as if your very identity is being consumed, triggering immediate distancing behaviors. Independence as armor. Your brain has learned to use autonomy not just as a healthy boundary, but as a protective shield against the perceived dangers of interdependence, making it difficult to distinguish between healthy independence and defensive isolation. Laura realized this pattern when her partner asked if they could start having a weekly check-in about their relationship. Her immediate internal response was panic, not because the request was unreasonable, but because her brain interpreted weekly check-in as loss of freedom. She found herself wanting to break up rather than commit to 1 hour per week of intentional connection. Understanding that her nervous system was creating a false choice between being in a relationship and being herself allowed her to experiment with small commitments that honored both her need for autonomy and their relationship's need for attention. Your brain's either-or programming can be updated to both end thinking with patience and practice.